Coming up, I'm going to think of better introductions to this show.
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Steven Scott and Sean Priest.
Hey guys, welcome along to another episode of Double Tap.
Was that going back to the 1920s? Sure. Better introduction to the show. That's very good.
Show. Welcome to the show.
Computers.
The wonderful world of computing. Brought to you by Steven and Shaun. Yes, hello. I know I need to come up with something better in the introduction. They always say that, don't they? Because like now we're on YouTube. They say, the first 30 seconds are really important because if you don't get people hooked.
Thanks for watching.
Exactly. Everyone's swiped on. They've moved on. I think if you don't have the ability to listen beyond 30 seconds of a show, this probably is not for you. That's my view on it.
No,
so you can just move along.
I would say 15 minutes going off our intros. But
well, that's what I mean. If you can't bear that, then you have to move on because this is a show. This is a talk show. That's how this works.
Especially when we talk over each other, people love that,
don't they? I love it best.
What are we talking
doing,
about anyway today? Because I've got nothing. I've got to say, I'm coming to today's episode completely empty, Steven Scott. There doesn't seem to be much news going on. I've done nothing. I haven't injured myself again. So it's all on you, I'm afraid.
Oh, I got my guide dog assessment yesterday.
And how did it go? What is a guide dog assessment?
It's where they ask you probing questions about your suitability to own a dog. But actually they don't, because that's not the bit I'm at. You see, the bit I'm at the beginning, I'm right at the beginning. I'm at the bit where they're assessing whether I, as a human being, am capable of survival by myself.
And if you are, then you don't get a guide dog?
I don't know that bit yet. I'll find out.
If you're not, then you don't want one anyway because you're no longer here anymore.
That's right, yeah. Which certainly would shorten the waiting list, I think, if we went down that road approach. But it was quite interesting. So you basically have to, this is the point where you're kind of learning or showing your roots and where you're going and how you get out. And it's funny when you start digging into it. I have to say, though, yesterday, I called you afterwards and I said we had some things we were going to do yesterday. I was utterly exhausted after it yesterday. And I did not expect to be quite so exhausted by it because you think, well, hang on, all I did was have a conversation. I'm kind of good at that. I do that fairly regularly. And, I went for a walk. Okay, a few panic alarms might be set off there. But no, I mean, I think it's because you're going into so much detail about your vision level and you're having to really, it's that facing up to everything. And the worst thing? It's like, people along the way will tell you, it's like if you're applying for benefits or you're applying for anything, some people will say, okay, talk about your worst day. Talk about your worst experience. And I have to say, when you're talking about your experience and you realize you aren't even talking about your worst day, you're talking about every day, it does get a little bit unnerving because, I don't know how the assessment's going to go. They don't tell you anything. They go through the process, they take it to teams and then they all sit down and discuss it. And I'll find out later this week, hopefully, what's going on. But you do kind of feel like you have exposed yourself, in this kind of, you told everybody everything about yourself here.
You made yourself vulnerable, Steven Scott.
Vulnerable,
You were emotionally drained.
I was tired yesterday.
And physically
I slept for
walking
3
about.
hours.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? You say you got to show your roots. And I've heard this before. And I don't know. I've never gone through a guide dog assessment. I haven't even had O&M, as you keep reminding me.
No, you're a terrible person.
I am a terrible blind person.
Yeah. A TTB.
If you don't have any...
TTBP.
Thank you. If you don't have any roots, right? If your mobility is such that actually you don't want to go out, does that mean you're immediately out of the picture for getting a guide dog? Because to me that seems... I nearly said something I shouldn't say then. That seems wrong. Because... Hey, look, a guide dog may enable me, may give me the confidence, may get rid of that anxiety, may make it possible for me to go out and create these routes, to allow me to get out there. And without it, I just feel like I can't. So isn't it a bit of a catch-22?
It is a bit. I mean, I think that what they're looking for, and I think the way the assessment process works now, and I think they've tightened the rules up a bit. They've changed a lot since, the last time I was assessed properly was 19. So, that was a few years ago.
How many?
A lot's changed. Many, many, many years.
Okay. The funny thing is, I know you're not keeping that secret because of vanity, but because you can't do the maths.
I can't work it out. Exactly. I'm 43, I was 19. You work it out. I'll get ChatGPT on the case at some point, I'm sure, or ask Lady A. But, I remember back then it was very different. And of course, I was a teenager then, so it was a very different thing. And I would say there was more of a push, more encouragement to get you a guide dog back then. It was almost like a rite of passage, almost. I think that's often where the assumption has come that, you kind of be upgraded to a guide dog and that's you fully blind, which is nonsense. That's not how it works.
Completed the uniform.
That's right, exactly. It's like once you've got a guide dog. I mean, I know people who say to me, sighted people who said to me in the past, "Oh, you don't have a guide dog. All right, so you're not like that blind." And I'm like, what does that mean, right? It doesn't mean anything, right? It's just, but that's an assumption that's made because guide dogs are for blind people. Now, of course, there are many guide dog owners who have got some remaining vision. So, I can understand sort of where the public get confused by it. I think it's all marketing that's the issue in some ways. But look, I mean, that's another conversation. I think at the end of the day, the rules have changed, the eligibility has changed, and I think the challenges that guide dogs as an organisation in the UK itself, I can't speak for anywhere else in the world, but the challenges they face are, there's a huge funding crisis at the moment. They're having to find new ways to do essentially the same work, but at a considerable less cost. It seems, of course, the pandemic had a big issue with lockdown. They couldn't breed as many dogs, so they fell behind with their waiting lists growing. So there's a lot of challenges the organisation has faced. And I kind of wonder if they've decided, right, we have to almost tighten up the rules of entry here so that we can essentially, control the number of people who actually have dogs.
Our limited resources
and limit,
to the
exactly.
right people.
Yeah,
and look, I totally get it.
Right
I'm not criticising any guide dog.
And can I just say, no, I will criticise a little bit because I did feel for a long time, there was a period where I felt there was a lot of people who I knew personally who were being told they could get guide dogs, and they were telling me, I don't know if I need a guide dog.
Then you shouldn't have one.
Yeah, but they were saying, I think I have enough vision, but they keep telling me that I don't, and I know myself better than, them. And they were, almost like putting the dog on the person because it was like you should have a guide dog. Now that's changed. And I wonder if it's gone the other way now, where it's almost becoming really difficult to get a guide dog because, they've tightened the rules up so much. So, there's no guarantees here. There's no guarantee. It's not like I'm a shoo-in for this at all.
Well, we will see.
Nobody is. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are people who've been on the waiting lists, people who've had guide dogs for many years who've been told, no, you're not getting a new guide dog.
Yeah, that doesn't seem right to me.
So I don't know what's going on, but, but look, these are all individual cases, right? I mean, we don't know what's going on.
Of course.
We just hear these stories. We hear these abstract stories. And look, I mean, you can argue the toss about how it's done, the way it's done. At the end of the day, I do feel, I do think you need to have a proper assessment before you even consider this, not only for the dog, but for you. You need to think, because honestly, the amount of thinking that has gone on into this, you think, I mean, look, I've got dogs, right? I've got 2 dogs at home. My wife has a guide dog, and we both have a pet dog, little Oni, and, we're used to having dogs around. So having dogs is not the problem at all. But this is different. This is totally different because this dog is going to be beside you every day. Everywhere you go, you're going to have this dog with you. And you need to think about how that's going to work. And it's a huge responsibility because then when you're going somewhere, like if I'm meeting you in Manchester, I need to now think, okay, so where am I staying? Is there a park nearby? Is there somewhere I can take the dog to spend, as we like to say?
Yes.
He's
got all the jargon already.
All the jargon,
Well done.
Busy. Sorry, guide dog owner. Don't say that. That's like saying the A word around here. You can't say that. Set them all off.
No, it's true though. It's a lot of responsibility.
It's huge.
It's absolutely. And I suppose, thinking about it, if it's a limited resource, which a guide dog is, surely you want people to have access to them who need them the most, such as, well, I suppose the question is, let's say someone's employed and they need it for their commute.
Yeah.
Is that more important than someone who isn't employed but just wants to get out and about socially?
Well, okay, so
that judgment needs to be made.
That's the bit I was wanting to get to, actually, because you brought this up. I think a lot of the challenge here is that if you aren't out and about at the moment at all, then, and take your case for example, right? You haven't had O&M training, so that would be a mark against you at this point.
Yes,
because you need to have that orientation mobility training. You need to be confident with your mobility aid. You need to be able to get out and about. Because otherwise, I suppose the question could be asked, well, hang on, if you're not out at all at the moment, how is having a dog going to change that? How will that change anything? The dog still needs worked. The dog still needs you to be confident and capable. So if you are suddenly saying that, I've never left the house, I'm not leaving the house very often, but I'm going to go out all the time with a dog, is that realistic? I mean, I remember I had this conversation back in 2020 when I thought about applying. I didn't go through it with it at the time. And I remember having the conversation, and they said to me at the time, what you have to think about is, are you changing your life to accommodate the dog? Like, oh, I'll go 4 walks a day. Would you normally go 4 walks a day? Or is this something that you're now deciding you'll do to accommodate the dog? Because that's going to get old very quick if that's something you don't do. So I can kind of see why they push on this a little bit. That's why the routes are important, because you need to be having places to go. And in my case, it's very simple routes, really. It's to my mum's back. It's my local shops. It's to the doctor's surgery. It's that kind of thing. These routes, these are my daily or weekly kind of routes, the places I would go. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I'll let you know. I'll update you as I go through it. But yeah, it was pretty exhausting. And not exhausting because of them. I mean, it's just the whole conversation aspect. It's just, it takes a lot out of
I know exactly
when
what
we have to talk about these things.
Yeah, the same thing whenever you need to go to the eye hospital and then, you get a new consultant or a new doctor and they want to go through your history. And you go, do I have to? I'm going to burst into tears any minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because especially when they ask you about your eye condition, and the question you always get is in some way it's a form of, what can you see?
Yeah.
I always think that must be really hard for some people to answer. Because it's like, well, I don't know how to describe that. Because if I describe to you what I can see, okay, does that really tell you anything? Because it doesn't really explain it.
And am I reliable to tell you? It's funny.
Exactly.
It's funny you say that because, I said I went for the cataracts consultation and he said, well, we're going to, your right eye is it's got a really thick cataracts. And, I suggest we laser it off and it will stop any... it will help you keep your light perception. I said, "Oh, yeah, cool, of course, let's do it. Keep the light perception. That's a bonus." And then just the other day, after I talked about it on here, I covered my left eye, and I don't have any light perception in my right eye anyway. I never noticed. Didn't have a clue. I just assumed I did. And no, my right eye is just nothing at all.
There's no vision. There's nothing left there.
No, nothing. No light. I was staring at the window and the sun blazing through it, and I just covered my left eye and just gone. I was like, oh, it's funny. It just creeps up. You just don't even notice because obviously my left eye is compensating anyway with the light perception at least. So, yeah, sometimes you're not reliable yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And if I'm not, who is? I mean, I don't know what I can see. Just say I struggle. That's all you need to know. I need help now and again when I ask for it.
And, it depends on all kinds of situations for me, right? It could be the light could change. I mean, I wear sunglasses every day, pretty much, mostly all day nowadays, because of light, and sunny days are a nightmare. Yesterday, I will say, though, sunny day mixed with wind. Oh, blind man's nemesis.
Yeah. Awful.
I could not work out if the cars were coming when I was trying to cross the road yesterday. Of course, I had to do the walk. As part of showing the routes that I do. And so I took the guide dog instructor, the person who was with me from Guide Dogs, with me on the route, so he could see the route. And there's a particular road I cross which is horrible. I must admit, I find crossing roads terrifying these days. I don't know about you.
Yep.
Utterly terrifying. And where I live, small village, there is no cross points, nothing. There's no cross points anywhere in the village. So you literally just take your life in your hands. There's one point I find to cross, which is kind of the safest bit.
The thinnest bit.
It literally is, because it's like it's a 2-lane road, and you basically have a point where they have this thing called a chicane, which is kind of where I think they half the road, essentially. So one car can pass, but the other one has to wait for that car to go so it can go by.
Bottleneck them through. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's at a school, which is exactly why they've done that, so they can slow the cars down. And that's the safest bit I find to cross. It isn't a crossing, though, and it's actually not a good place to cross. But, my view is that those cars are going to be hyper aware of that part of the road. So at least if I go crossing ahead and someone's coming down that road, they're going to see me.
Yes.
And also,
we hope.
if I go at school time, the lollipop person takes me across the road. Yes, look it up if you're outside the UK. That's a thing. There is not a person made of lollipops, but a person who stands with a giant lollipop who stops the traffic. I think that's a thing. I'm sure that's a thing abroad.
That must be a crossing guard, I believe it's called in the US.
Is that what a crossing guard is? I thought it was a prison thing.
Oh, what, helping prisoners cross the road?
Yes.
I think that's the opposite of what they should be doing, but okay.
Come this way.
Well, good luck, Stephen, anyway. That's
you.
Interesting. Well, keep us updated. We need a jingle for your guide dog journey.
Yeah, I'll think of one.
Okay.
I clearly haven't thought of one today. But yes, I'll definitely let you know how it goes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if I end up with a guide dog. I'll be lying at my feet here during the show.
Does that mean we're going to be hearing those jingly bells all the way through the episodes?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Good. I like that. Shaking their heads.
Well. I sometimes because you get a headache or whatever, you take them off and then you realise why you have them on in the first place when you catapult yourself over
I've been trying to put a little dingly bell on my dog for years, but Sarah will not have it. Oh, it's annoying.
Really?
It's annoying. You never know where he is.
I know.
Got to have a bell on. Anyway, sorry.
No,
let's not bring my domestics
ones.
in.
You get tiny little ones. You don't need to get big bells.
Interfered with my domestics enough, Stephen Scott.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I'm not getting involved in your domestics. I don't want to involve in your domestics.
Let me just say this as well. You said that I dragged you into our domestic.
I did.
The way I seem to remember it is we were on a phone call and you wouldn't hang up. And you... It's almost like you got the popcorn out. I put you on speakerphone and you just sat there and listened while I was being berated.
I loved it.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope you felt supported during that.
Yeah, I did.
As
laughing.
a friend to friend. Look, I'm there for you. I'm always there for you. I'm not saying I'm going to do anything useful or contribute. I mean, like when you slammed your fingers in the car door, I'm there for you.
Yeah, eventually. I believe you did shout out, Shaun chose the date. I think that was your help.
I did.
Thanks.
I only tell the truth.
Anyway.
Are you still going to remember this? Is this still a thing?
Yes. Yes, I am. I'm slightly smarting about it all.
Well, you should have picked the date then, shouldn't you?
All right. Come on. We're actually on the air right now. Remember.
Are we? Is that what this is? Okay. Right. Shall we get to some emails? Do you want to do some emails?
Please. More than 2. We're going to make a promise. More than 2 this episode. Let's do it.
The question is, though, are we piano or xylophone? That's the question everybody's asking.
Xylophone.
Email.
Piano.
It's a xylophone. Or a glockenspiel, something like that. Ding dong. That's a doorbell.
That's like a kids' TV show.
That's definitely a xylophone.
Well, listen, we've had emails in about this. We will get to them
probably
in about May next year.
3 months.
But we will get round to the piano versus xylophone conversation that we've been having.
Controversy.
On the show. Yeah, the new controversy. The new domestic. Double tap domestic.
Legs, arms, xylophones, pianos. Okay.
Right, let's move on and let's get some emails. We're going to start with, this is George.
Hello, Shaun and Steven. This is George. I am from South Africa. It's actually evening here. In fact, it's the last hour of June the 4th. It's about 11-something p.m. and I can't sleep. So I'm sort of listening to your episode that you uploaded a few hours ago. And I just sort of got to the part where you were talking about how you like to move it with Move It. Now, firstly, very unfortunately, we don't have any bus apps here in South Africa. We've got Uber, but we don't have buses. We have inter-provincial and long-distance buses, but it's not like you could take a bus and be at your destination in 20 minutes. But why I'm actually sending this message, I couldn't resist. Firstly, the character from Madagascar you're referring to is King Julian. He is the tiger. He's actually probably my favorite. I've never seen the movies, but he would probably be my favorite. And that song actually brings up a memory. Around about the same time, I was a young lad, about 4, and we were, in our little daycare and doing dances or whatever it is that you do. And somebody decided to play I Like to Move It over the speaker. And I got such a big fright that I started crying. I hated it because it was so loud. And I started crying. And then there was another type song that was much slower. And they were making us simulate airplanes using these wooden sticks. And they had to tell me, it's not the Move It song that made you cry. This is the other song. But yes, the character you're talking about is indeed King Julian. And I really am enjoying the show. I'm enjoying it. It's my favorite blindness technology podcast. I'm glad it gives me something to listen to every day. I'm planning to submit some user reviews if that's what you do allow of some products.
Yes,
I'm actually
please.
moving into my own place, and so I'm getting a couple very interesting products. Yeah, if it's something you'd be keen for, I'd definitely submit some user reviews. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you didn't mind my ramble.
Listen, if you want to send in reviews, it's great because it means we don't have to do any work. Sorry, what I mean is it empowers you to tell the story of your own technology.
Yes, power to the community.
Yeah.
If it means less work for
us. I love it.
Can I just
gives us time to fight and argue about dates
and xylophones? I don't want to be picky here, but I believe King Julian was a ring-tailed lemur rather than a tiger. Just saying.
Oh, great! So you started a whole new thing.
No, I'm just saying. I don't like misinformation to be put out onto the airwaves. So I'm just saying I could be wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's fine. Well, we've got AI now, so that, misinformation is now the new thing.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, George.
Welcome to the show, and we're glad we're helping you sleep.
Yeah.
Or not.
Well, it doesn't sound like you got to sleep. That's the only thing. Sorry, George. I kept you awake. But, yeah, today's ramble might send you off. You never know. We'll keep trying. Thank you, George. I appreciate it. And yes, do send in your reviews. We love it. And listen, if you've got a review, and it doesn't have to be this big production that you send in, you just record a couple of minutes on your phone or on Apple Watch or any other. I mean, you wouldn't use an Android watch, would you? But, you could use an Apple Watch. You could use a Synaptic watch if you bought one of those, because they've got the voice memo thing in. That's kind of cool.
Stop digging a hole. Yes.
I haven't worked out how you get the voice memos off the Synaptic watch, so that's the only thing.
Oh, can you
kind
even?
Of in there. I don't know how you get them out of there. Do you know what it needs? It needs a companion app for a smartphone. So it could be an iPhone.
The whole point was that it was completely standalone, isn't it?
I know, but there's people like me who want to do more with it.
You'll never. Well, get an Apple Watch then. That's not. It's raison d'être, Stephen Scott.
It's what? Sorry.
Raison d'être.
Oh, I'm getting hungry now.
Canadians know what I'm saying, and the French, and French Canadians.
Oh wow, you're digging such a hole.
Quickly,
it is wonderful.
Next email. Quickly.
Right to Lisa.
Hello, Shaun and Steven, or Steven and Shaun. This is Lisa Salinger calling with some comments on your podcast where you interviewed Amos Miller. One of them is about Glide, and one is not at all related, but it is related to the podcast. So when I first saw Glide, I really thought I would use it in my left hand because I've had 3 guide dogs. I currently don't now, but I prefer and like that way of traveling the best. And I thought, left hand is going to be the way to go because my right hand is my dominant hand. It can be free for other things. It's all good. And when I started using it, he said that I needed to hold my left hand so that it was kind of centered in front of my body, like you are supposed to hold a white cane. I could not, in fact, use my left hand in that guide dog harness position. When I heard this, I immediately switched to my right hand because I know myself and I know that if I continue to use it in my left hand, I would continue out of force of habit to move my hand into that guide dog and harness position, which meant that I would not receive adequate clearance on my right side, which means Glide would not be doing its job, which means I could end up doing a Humpty Dumpty on the sidewalk. And that's not really what I want. So you seem to have some questions or confusion about the use of different hands with Glide, and that's my experience. Honestly, I don't even remember the context of the other comment, but it was, I think, in response to an email. And one of you, I don't even remember who. See how well I was listening?
Steven.
Anyway, one of you
Shaun.
said something about, it's that same old thing about, when you can't see, your hearing is better. Well, I always heard, people would say that. And I was always told and always believed that that was not the truth, that you could learn to use your hearing better, but it was, in fact, no stronger. So in 2019, I was diagnosed with a mild to moderate hearing loss. And somehow this discussion came up with my audiologist. I don't know how I lucked out to get this woman. She was the cream of the crop and all things superlative and fantastic. And she had worked with blind people, and she got it, and she was phenomenal. But I said this to her, and she said, actually, that's not true. She said, I have functional MRIs that prove that blind people's hearing is better. She said, all I can guess is that the area responsible for hearing is larger. She said, if you were sighted, I would not suggest you get a hearing aid because I would make an educated guess that your loss is not that great. She said that I did show a mild hearing loss, but that the percentage of loss was probably greater because I am blind. So I thought that was interesting that this myth I had kind of held to for years was sort of toppled by science, and I wasn't disgruntled or anything. I really just thought it was fascinating. I was quite fascinated to be wrong, and just thought I would share.
Is that breaking news, Shaun Priest?
Well, I mean, that's the perception of one, admittedly professional, but I mean, I don't know. And to be honest, what's the difference? You know, we've all heard, no, your hearing isn't better, you just use it more. But actually, isn't it kind of the same thing?
I think it is, yeah.
If the MRI is showing that we're using, more of our brain for hearing, for audio processing maybe, isn't that the same thing? I actually don't know what the difference is.
This is why I can't remember anything anymore, because my brain is so busy trying to hear.
I'm too busy listening to speak.
My CPU is at 100% all the time.
It's interesting, though.
It is, yeah.
I can understand that.
I think it kind of makes sense that you would have one sense like hearing become more prevalent, you know, because you are leaning on it more. So as a result of that, you're more aware of it. You're more, you know, and your brain is responding to that. I think that's maybe all it is.
I wonder if it's different.
I say maybe all it is, but you know what I mean? It sounds plausible to me, but it maybe isn't it's that your hearing is better. It's that you are tuning in more than you would be if you're sighted. Because sighted people, I don't think, you know, if you've got the sight and hearing, you're kind of relying on both. Like, I mean, how many times I've sat with people at dinner who say, "Oh, sorry, I can't see what you're saying," and I used to think that was a ridiculous thing to say.
That's ridiculous.
Say, I can't see, but if they couldn't see you very well, they couldn't hear you.
Yeah, the vision was making up for the lack of.
Yeah, it's almost lip reading alongside, you know? It's like they're picking up a bit of the audio, they're picking up a bit of the vision, and they're kind of putting it together. The brain's doing the work. You know, but it's why we struggle so many times in big groups of people. You sit around a table of 8 people, and it's like, forget it.
It's true. It's true. Very interesting, though, Lisa. Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for that. Look, we'll take one more for the break. Here's Grace.
Hello, Steve. Hello, Shaun. It's Grace here again. Hope you're both well. It's nice to leave you a message. Now, my friend, she says to me, she said, I was going to send you a text. And I said, well, you can do that. She said, well, I'll do that, but who's going to read it to you? I said, well, my phone talks. I can read it for myself. But how can you do that? And I'm saying, well, because as I've said to you, my phone talks, but they don't get it, do they? So then she wrote me the text, and then she said she phoned me after that on the landline, and she said, oh, did you manage to get my text? Did it talk to you? And I'm saying, yes, it did. Oh, and you know, you just get so frustrated that they don't get it, you know, because I don't get my phone to dictate the text. I'd rather write them myself, because I like to do that, you know. I think she understands now that I can write text. I just wondered, have you ever had bother with people when they deliver to your door from Amazon? Well, I think it was last week I had stuff delivered. I went to the door, and my lovely pet dog, I've got a dog called Teal, and Teal is 10. She's just a pet dog, and she's lovely, and she's a great companion to me, you know. So I went to the door, and Teal was just sitting at my side, you know, and she was just, I was petting her at the same time, and the guy said, I've got your parcel, like that. And I said, thank you very much. And he says, get that dog in. And I said, don't you talk to me like that, please. I said, I'm going to report you for this. And he said, please do. So I went on to Amazon, I phoned Amazon, and they were lovely. They said, I'm really sorry that you've been through this. It really upset me. So I said that I didn't want that driver again. But today I got stuff delivered from Amazon, and it was the opposite. He was so nice, this driver, so I phoned Amazon and said how good he was. So, you know, they were very pleased that I liked the driver. There's nothing worse than a driver when they just, you know, they make it obvious that they don't like talking to you, do they? They're just so horrible, some of them. So I thought I would share that with you. Okay then, take care, bye.
Oh, always nice to hear from you, Grace. Thank you for that.
Is. Thank you, Grace. You know what, though, there's horrible people out there, and there's great people, and it's the same with any delivery. The amount of times I get someone who's really nice. Good morning, sir. I've got a parcel for you, and I always open the door and just stick my hand straight out anyway, and they'll just put it in my hand.
You got to be careful with that sometimes.
I know, I know,
knock
exactly.
someone off their perch if you're not careful.
But I get the occasion where they don't say a word. Not a single word.
Oh, they're gone. They just drop the thing and go.
You know what? I don't mind that so much, because I know they're really hectic. They've got, you know, they're being tracked. So I don't even mind if they just leave it at the door and go, as long as they ring the doorbell. But when they're stood there and they will not speak to me, I just think that is absolutely awful. Hello? And nothing. And then it's like I'll just touch my hands and it's a parcel.
Yeah,
I think that is just so ignorant. There's absolutely no excuse for it. So, yeah, but you did the right thing. Just ring them up and complain.
But also, you know, you did a really nice thing, which was ring up and praise as well.
Yes.
And they got it right. I bet they don't hear that very often. So that's nice. You know, Shaun, it's like there's good and bad in everyone.
We should learn to love each other.
Right, that's enough of that. Okay, stick around. We'll get into more emails next. I'm off to have a shower.
Get in touch with Double Tap. Email feedback at doubletaponair.com. Leave us a voicemail at 1-877-803-4567. And now you can send an audio or video message to us on WhatsApp. That number is 1-613-481-0144.
I shall wash, but I will never be clean. Right, let's move on. Hetty's up next.
Hi, this is Heddy Siegel again. I agree with you about the blind pride business. I think it's silly because blindness is a headache, an Excedrin headache. I do not like being blind. There are times I can't help it. I say I hate being blind. And I know I shouldn't, because I believe it's a cross to bear, and I should just get up and not pester about it or grouch about it. But it really is a bummer. I also agree with Allison that we need to understand about needing sighted folks to help us. I mean, today my aide got another migraine. She's not coming. And it's really a bummer. It puts a big hole in what I could do today as far as getting my silly cards. You know, I changed banks, so I have to get my new card attached to my DoorDash account and my Instacart account. It's just a pain in the neck. I felt the same way as I think it was Steven did the other night, yesterday, when that darn card kept saying invalid, invalid, invalid. It's a brand new card. I know there's money in it, and I hate this word, invalid. there's only one woman I know, or I don't know her, but I heard about on YouTube, who blinded herself. I suppose she must have lots of blind pride. Well, why on earth, if God gave you the gift of sight, would you deliberately destroy that gift? That'd be like your mom giving you a beautiful, beautiful Apple Watch Ultra or something really fancy and beautiful, and then you go and destroy it. I know you guys are smart. You wouldn't do that. I could not believe that. I heard about it on YouTube. It happened in Chicago. And, you know, it's great to say I have a great life, but I think that's in spite of being blind, not because of it. I love Double Tap. My husband and I listen every night, and we just love it. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Ah, thanks you, Heddy.
Yeah,
it's
really
Heddy, by the way, not Hetty.
Sorry, I'm hearing Hetty. Sorry, my apologies. My hearing must be not as good as Lisa's.
You're not using your full brain, obviously.
My cortexes are all broken. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I heard that story as well about the woman who blinded herself, who made a conscious decision to blind herself because
but that's obviously mental health issues.
I certainly hope so. Well, I hope
I know
that's the
what
case.
you're saying.
I hope it's not just a case of someone making a decision to, let's try this.
There's lots of conditions like that where people feel like parts of an arm or a leg isn't actually part of their body and they want rid of it. There's lots of mental conditions out there that affect people in that way. I think the difficulty is for people like ourselves where we would, and I'm speaking for me here, give an arm or a leg to have our sight back.
Well, that's right. I mean, I'd be the opposite. Yeah. I mean, why would I want to be in this situation? I don't. I mean, it's. There's a lot of people who take a lot of pride in where they've come or what they do as a result of their blindness, and oftentimes what you'll hear people say is, I wouldn't be doing what I do today if I were not blind, and it's like, yeah, but you don't know that. You don't know what you'd be doing. You might be a film star. I could be the world's greatest and most grumpiest bus driver.
Yes.
And I probably would have been.
Yes, you would. But you would suit a bus driver.
But that's the other... People don't often think about that. They don't often think about what the other life would have been, because we all think about that. What would our life have been with vision, without a disability? And, I know myself to know that it would have been something to do with buses. I just do. And I'd have had a great life. And I'd have probably said, goodness me, I'm so glad I'm in this position to be able to drive this bus. Equally, I sit here and I say, I'm in a really great position to be able to sit here and do this show. But would I want one over the other? Well, probably, yeah. I'd probably be happy driving the bus, to be perfectly honest. That's the truth of it. It's because I'd rather have the full vision.
Yes, of course.
And I don't think it's...
we're going into this argument of what blind pride actually is. I just see it as trying to express to the majority of the world what the expectations should be for someone with a disability. I think we can
do that without coming up with this nonsense, and it is nonsense. I'm sorry.
No, it's not.
That blindness is some kind of achievement that we, once you've
blindness
unlocked
isn't.
it's
I
great.
don't believe that people are saying that. I'm sorry. I know that there are a few, I would call extreme advocates that would say blindness itself, the condition of being without sight is in itself something to be desired. I don't believe that's the case. I think blind pride is simply that, hey, just because I'm a person with a disability, please don't pigeonhole me or don't limit your expectations.
The worst one I remember hearing was someone saying, I could read in the dark, unlike my friends. And I'm thinking, but your friends, but your friends were also doing the same thing under the cover with a torch. I mean, it wasn't like you had some superpower they didn't have. They were just doing it a different way. If they wanted to read in the dark, they would find a way to do it.
Yeah, but that's a nothing, right? That's just a throwaway line.
But that's actually given quite a lot as an example of why I'm proud of being blind. Look, if you're proud of being blind, good for you, right? That's your choice, your existence, that's your life. I just don't get it. Okay. I just don't get it. Because for me, it's just, it is absolutely a pain in the neck that I'd rather get rid of, to be perfectly honest.
Of course
That's the problem.
Yes.
And it's funny because when you go through things like the guide dog assessment and you go through benefit checks or whatever it is you go through, you have to fill in forms, it all comes back to you. And it all bubbles back up again, doesn't it? And it kind of makes you feel like, oh, God, this is just awful. Because it makes you feel bad. you know? And, you know, I don't think for a second that the people who are even the strongest advocates of blind pride do not have down days. I absolutely know they will.
Yes, they're human beings.
And some people will be using this as a cloak to get them through. I get that. I understand that. But what I like to talk about, because no one else will, is the reality of vision loss. And, you know, the stories we're hearing, I mean, you know, Heddy talks there about, you know, adding her card to the DoorDash app.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm in exactly the same position right now because I got a new bank card and I haven't even tried to do that yet. I managed to get it added to Apple Pay, and I just hope that whoever I'm buying from has got Apple Pay, because I haven't gone into the process of trying to add the card back into Amazon again. And, you know, it's all the stuff that goes on. And people say, oh, you just add your card. You just add your card. Dead easy. No, it's not easy. I'm sorry, it's not. That's the point, right? Because first off, I've got to get the card number off that card. And I have to think about how I want to do that, because do I want to do it? I don't have anyone to help me do that. So I'm going to have to use Seeing AI. So am I giving this information out to the public? I don't know. So do I use Ira? Okay, well, that's a bit safer. Be My Eyes, absolutely not, because I don't know who's on the other end of that line. You know, so it's like all these thoughts and processes, and then like, okay, I'm going to take a note of that card, make sure I put it in a text document, put it in my document, and I'll need to make sure I copy that in each time. Is this going to be accessible to add this in? That's the headache.
Yeah,
you know, something that takes a sighted person a minute could take us a week.
Yeah.
Of frustrations and all the rest. And that's the bit that I want to talk about, because I don't think people do talk about it. That's the problem. People don't, you know, there's a sense of, if you go to a charity for blind people, they're always, oh, you know, blindness is, you know, it's just it's a hassle or something.
No. See, I would argue the opposite to that. Because of those struggles that we have, and they're absolutely right when it comes to things like your bank card, right? Because of those struggles, people assume, well, in that case, if you can't even do that, then you can't possibly live on your own. You can't possibly bring up your own children. You can't possibly get employment. You can't possibly be educated with mainstream sighted pupils. And I think that's where blind pride comes in. Actually, yes, I do have these struggles, but it doesn't rule my life. It doesn't mean that everything else is out of the window also.
Yeah, but the problem is by not acknowledging these issues. And they're
not
acknowledged. No, they're not.
No,
they're not. Listen, you find me another podcast on this earth that's talking about these issues. Show me one.
Lots of people talk about the funny incident that I had today because of my blindness.
That's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. No, that's not the same. That's one thing about bringing community, and I get that. And, you know, the blind blunders and all the, that was dead funny when I smashed that, you know, new thing I just bought.
My face off the brick pillar.
Yes,
right, it's funny.
Hilarious. You know, there's one thing sharing stories, but there's another thing sharing the realities, the challenges of just what Hetty said there about the adding the card number. That's going to resonate with so many people today.
Yes.
And no one else is having that conversation. That's the bit we need to have. And it's sad, Shaun, it's sad that we are the only people bringing this up. I'm all for, and look, you can't obviously stop there, right? That's the whole point. If you just stopped there, you're absolutely right. The result of that is, well, if you can't even do that, what can you do? You're absolutely right. So what our job is to say, well, these are the challenges, but here's the solutions. And I think if you have that fulsome conversation, people will start to understand the whole picture. Because the problem is, if you only see the one side of it, where, oh, I'm blind and I'm perfectly capable of absolutely everything, I can do anything I want. You know, I'm sorry, that's just not the case for many people. It's not the case for a lot of blind people, and especially newly blind. Again, there's a difference between totally blind, someone who's been blind since birth, and someone who's new to it. It's an entirely different world. So, you know, I almost see it as a separate discussion. And I think that the blind pride often comes from people who've been born blind, because that's what you've lived with for your whole life. You've only known that, so you've grown up, you've learned, you've got all the tools.
We just do not agree what blind pride actually is on this. I don't think we're ever going to meet each other's viewpoint on this.
Well, I'm certainly not proud of it. Whatever definition I can't put those two words together in my book. I'm sorry. I just can't.
Okay.
Just can't do it. It makes no sense to me. Makes no sense on any sense to be. But how can you say you're proud of being blind? It makes no sense. I'm proud of having 10 fingers. Well, okay, is that the same thing? Yes, it is exactly the same thing, because I have no part to play in any of it.
Well, if there was a large part of the of society saying that if you have 10 fingers, then there is you can only do certain things, or you shouldn't be allowed to do other things that the other people can do, the 9-fingered people, however this society has worked, then absolutely
where you're going with this,
there
okay.
would be 10-fingered blind pride. So yes.
Okay, I'm totally confused now. What
So
am I
am
not
I.
proud of?
I
I'm
don't
so
know.
confused. Right, let's move on to Logan.
Thank you, Heddy.
Thank you, Heddy. Appreciate it. Here's Logan.
Hello, Stephen, Shaun, Laura, and all double tappers. My name is Logan, and I am emailing you from Ontario in Canada. Before I go on my Stephen Scott-style rant, I would like to say that I am a big fan of the show and the content you guys produce. Anyway, let's get into why I am emailing you. When I was in high school, I attended a school for the blind, which I will leave unnamed for the sake of this email. While I was a student, there was one issue that you would think students at a school for the blind wouldn't have to face. That issue was the lack of audio description for movies being played in the school's auditorium. For the first few years, it was a minor annoyance, and I talked to staff members about it, explaining how I felt and why. However, the main event that pushed me over the edge on this subject was the school's 150-year anniversary. For the last day of celebrations, the school decided to put a movie on in the auditorium. Keep in mind, this was supposed to represent a journey of adapting and improving accessibility, and what's the first thing I noticed? The movie was not in audio description. I immediately left the auditorium and blasted some metal music until it was time to go home, sending an angry email venting my frustrations after getting home, and to add insult to injury, the school seemed to focus more on what words students can and can't use. For example, students can't use the word residence, but also can't enjoy audio description at a school where they should expect it. Well done. It's 2025, for goodness sakes. Enough is enough with the language and complacency nonsense. Let's strive to make the world more accessible. Looking forward to hearing your feedback, and I'm looking forward to getting a glide for Christmas. Keep up the great work. From Logan in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, Logan's hoping Santa's listening. Okay, well, good luck with that. If you get your glide for Christmas, let us know how you got on, Logan.
That was before the announcement of the delay until the middle of next year.
Yeah, so Santa's says no.
No. Sorry.
Maybe next year.
Okay. Wow, that took a downer. So sorry.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry, you just reminded me of the delay. Yeah, okay, fine.
That's a blind school
depressing.
Showing a movie with no AD.
I mean,
I don't know how to respond to that.
What?
I mean,
what is going on?
Absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I would have gone out and blasted some heavy metal as well. You are
I'd been
absolutely
listening
right.
to some serious country music. I'd have get some
yes, showing your protest
out there for that.
Megadeth or Dolly Parton, either way. You let them know. No, seriously though, that is so disappointing to hear, because these are the people we expect to know that. Firstly, these resources such as AD exist in the first place, and that it's what they should be sourcing. And I mean, to just show a movie without AD is absolutely ridiculous.
You wonder if this is some ridiculous, I hope it's just is that a thing? I didn't know. I mean, why? I don't know why that would be the case, but okay, let's imagine for a second it's that. That would be better than the alternative, which might be that they're saying, well, you want to live in an inclusive society. An inclusive society may not have access to all this stuff, so, this is real life.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're making up our scenarios here. It could be anything. It could be just a case of one single teacher just thought, I'll bring this movie in for the kids to watch, right? We don't know. I say kids. I'm very old. We don't know the situation here, but,
But either way, it's ridiculous.
It is. It does seem like a ridiculous situation to be in. And I think we used the word ridiculous about 10 times there. So that's how upset we are. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Thank you for that, Logan. Can't believe that. Let's move on to another one.
Greetings, Double Tap. Lucas from California here. I remember a few months ago there was an episode which talked about the Meta Ray-Ban glasses not being durable enough. Just a few hours ago, I bumped heads with someone else, literally. It wasn't too hard, but 5 minutes later, the speakers on my glasses weren't working.
Ooh.
The microphones, cameras, and the AI were working just fine. I know this because a side friend put them on and said that the LED would blink when he would say the activation command. The Meta AI app said the speakers weren't working as well, along with a message that I couldn't play audio or take phone calls until they were fixed. As great as I think these glasses are, I think durability needs to be a factor when they make them, especially for us, since we bump our heads a lot. Thank you for all that you do for our community, and I hope you have an absolutely spectacular day.
I was so hoping you didn't say Christmas there, because I don't know how old some of these emails are. But Lucas, thank you for that. I appreciate that. You know what? It's so true, because we are bumping our heads off things all the time, and sometimes that's one reason why a lot of blind people wear sunglasses, because it kind of protects your eyes a little bit.
Absolutely.
It shields you. The same reason a lot of people wear the skip caps.
Yeah, but to be fair, what can be done? I mean, I've walked into a post before wearing my sunglasses. Luckily, they survived, right? But I mean, if we make them out of, metal, then they're going to be too heavy. I don't know. I think the build quality actually is okay.
Well, my dog managed to get hold of them and,
yes,
serious teeth marks in there.
Yes, little needle marks.
Remember you felt them? You felt the little teeth marks. And he was only a puppy at the time. But, he had a good go at biting into them and eating them, and they survived. I mean, look, I'm not saying that that's not the case for yours. Of course, yours didn't work, and that's not good. And you've obviously given them a hefty bash. But I think you're right, Shaun. I don't know how far you go with this. Now, what is interesting is the Oakleys that are coming out in July. You said to me they're coming in, the 11th of July or something?
I heard the 11th was pre-orders. Yeah, I'm not sure, but double check that. But yes, definitely available in July at some point.
Because they are said to be more robust, and I think it's because they're being sold as almost active wear. I mean, what glasses aren't active wear when you think about it? But, these are being built for runners, they've been built for people going out and about. I don't think they're bringing out the wraparound ones, because there was a lot of talk of like a wraparound type with
I just assumed that's what they would be. That's why I assumed they would be more robust, because the hinge is more protected in wraparound ones usually.
Yeah.
And
that might come, though. That might be a down the line, because, look, they're going to bring out lots of different variants of this.
Yeah.
So, Oakley might be starting off here and then rolling out more.
I want the Meta choppers. Just saying. Just putting it out there in case anyone's listening. Hello, Maxine from Meta. I want the Meta choppers. Thank you.
What is Meta choppers? Is that teeth?
No. Metal choppers.
Do you want meta teeth? Do you want metal teeth?
Choppers are a brand of sunglasses for bikers. They wrap around. They're very nice.
Oh, that's why I don't know what you're talking about, because I'm not,
sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a biker either. I'm sorry to say breaking news, but they're just very nice sunglasses.
You're just a wannabe. I'm a wannabe bus driver, so I'm more of a wraparounds type. You're a wannabe biker. What a pathetic pair we are.
I will say,
you'd be sort of driving past me, wouldn't you? Sort of honking your...
I'm like the Fonz. Yes. I will say, I think that one of the problems I found with the Ray-Bans from other people, this is all, hearsay, I suppose, but it's actually getting support when something like this does happen. I've heard that the support hasn't been great on a few occasions. Of course, it does depend where you got them from. Always go back to where you actually purchased them from, rather than going straight to Ray-Ban themselves, because I heard it can take quite some time to get a replacement or a repair. So that's the only thing I think needs more work, is the support afterwards if you do have a problem.
Yeah. Unlike our good friend Robin, who I think single-handedly brought down Bose frames. And
how many did he go through?
I don't know. He seemed to be getting a new pair every week.
Yes.
I just keep sending them back. Another one.
They did break quite a lot. It's like the Apple headphones back in the day. People, they'd replace them all the time. So why not? They will. Why not?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But I kind of hope the new Meta Oakleys are a bit more robust. I can't wait to try them. I mean, I don't know what they even look like. I've got an image in my mind.
Are you going to pre-order?
I probably will, because I do like having different styles of them, and I like having different ones to try. I'm also better battery life, keen to try that. Better camera. I mean, does that really matter? I mean, I was thinking the other day, we were talking the other day about this with the whole camera thing. It takes me back to the days we used to talk about. Remember the iPhone, when the new iPhone would come out? We'd be like, oh, the camera's improved on the iPhone 5. Does that mean it's better for OCR? We used to always have that discussion every time a new iPhone came out in those early days.
The truth is, no. I mean, I believe anything over 5 megapixel, and maybe even 3, anything over, let's say, 5 megapixel, has enough resolution for the smallest print. But it's not just that. It is the lens that they're using. It is the field of vision. There's so many different other things that affect it. As I said, the Ray-Bans have a 12 megapixel, I believe, camera, but they're not great for small text. And that's just because of the way the camera is configured.
Right, we've got one more to go before we leave you today. This is from Camille. This answers a long-running question on the show.
Stephen is correct. Boats do not have steering wheels. Lol. They indeed, to my knowledge, have a helm. On a different note, congrats on hosting your 1000th episode. Happy tapping, Camille.
Thank you, Camille. Did I say that? I don't know if I did say that, or... I think I posed the question.
I think the question was asked.
Wheels?
Well done, Steve. Asking the important questions.
The serious stuff here in Double Tap.
Do ships have wheels? They do have a helm, yes. I believe we got into that question a bit deeper. Was that on an exclusive?
Oh, I can't remember.
Who knows?
Well, I think it might have been on an episode we never actually aired, because I do remember having a conversation and we never broadcast it.
That was the reason it was never aired.
Yeah. That's on a new exclusive feed that doesn't exist.
Thank you, Camille. And if you can answer the piano versus xylophone question, we'd be much obliged, sir.
That's right. What was the other one you said earlier? You brought up another one.
Glockenspiel. Arms versus legs.
Yeah, it was that. Yeah. There's a lot of big questions on Double Tap, you know.
We ask the important questions.
The serious stuff here. Listen, that's it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll get more of your feedback to come. And, of course, we'll keep an eye on the news as well. But it's a bit quiet this week.
It is.
Quiet.
It's very quiet.
So let's hope, come on Meta, come on Apple, come on Google, do something.
Come on OpenAI. Let's see that new device. We all want to know.
Yeah. I think we're going to find out. All this stuff's going to arrive in September, October time. That's usually when you get all the kind of big announcements. So, yeah, until then, it's just you and me.
Joy.
Right, we're back in fight with your partner. Right, bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.